Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin Movies. As always, I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the Netflix original film, The Highwaymen. What this movie is about is not Bonnie and Clyde, but the men that took out Bonnie and Clyde. It's about a pair of Texas Rangers that come out of retirement and are hired to put a stop to the Bonnie and Clyde gang crime spree. On a personal note, I have to say that as a movie fan, a type of movie that I dig on and type of stories I dig on, I love 30s gangster and crime films. Movies like The Untouchables or Road to Perdition, just movies that I love immensely. And when it comes to this movie, and movies like it, especially ones that are based on true stories, I'm a little more forgiving to the dramatization of facts and the changing of facts and things like that. Just look at The Untouchables. The Untouchables, many say, is just based on lies, but I still love the movie. If you look at movies like that, just as dramatizations, and not as complete truths, you can have a better time watching them. Too bad I couldn't feel that way about other types of historical movies, Bohemian Rhapsody. Anyway, off topic there. When it came to this movie, I did do my research, and while I did find things that were changed for dramatization, such as when, say, Manny Galt joined Hamer's team, or things like that, or when who approached who with clues and the such, how long the whole thing took. There's many things they changed because you had to be able to fit all this stuff into a 2-hour movie. There's a quote from the director, John Lee Hancock, where he said, "When you're doing a historical piece, sometimes you might do something that kind of dramatizes the greater truth. So we're reducing a 100 days of actual history into 2 hours. So sometimes you combine things, but you also have to be dramatic and you have to entertain. So I think you want to be as true as you can to the story and as true as you can to history and make it as historically correct as you can." So even the director of the movie saying, look, we had to change some things. And I gotta say this, from what I'm finding from other people and some articles I read, like historians and things like that, the changes they made were just to tell a better story, to tell a more entertaining story. So I'm a little more forgiving about it. So with this movie, what you're basically getting is the old men are coming back. The old school cops are coming back, and they have to somewhat compete with new technology and the newer type of cop to solve where Bonnie and Clyde are and put a stop to them. And so you have scenes where they're investigating a shooting, and the new cops, the government, and everyone's missing all these clues, and the old timers come in and they start pointing it out, and they look like fools. So they make the new cops look like fools anyway. And so you get scenes like that. One of the scenes they did dramatize is that Hamer ran into Bonnie and Clyde before the shootout, and that didn't happen. They said that Hamer never saw Bonnie and Clyde before the shootout. So, but it just leads to a chase scene that kind of sets up. It's like the darn it, we didn't get him this time, we'll get him next time type scene. Where the bad guys got away. I must say that I really liked the on-screen chemistry of Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, who play Frank Hamer and Manny Galt. It's kind of Frank Hamer's the grizzled former Texas Ranger who it almost seems like he can't get away from this life. He's married, and he gets this offer to go hunt them down, and it's almost like he can't turn it down, even though his wife, he thinks his wife wants him to, but his wife doesn't argue with him. She's just like, I know who I married. Manny Galt, played by Woody Harrelson, he is looking for a purpose in life. He's just getting drunk every night, living with his family, and he needs something in his life. And so while they have Hamer in the movie try to avoid, asking him to come along, he's going to ask him, and he's like, I didn't want you to have to come along. I didn't want you to have to be a part of this. Galt's like, I needed this. And it's almost a buddy film with them two. And it's about how both of them kind of needed this big final hurrah to, make their careers, excuse me, and their life mean something. And I really like what they did there. Another thing I like that they did about this movie is most stories and most movies about Bonnie and Clyde really sensationalize their lives, make them rock stars almost. And this one, while maybe it's too far to the other extreme, make them just, while they do try to have characters convince our main characters that they weren't always bad, it's like, well, they're too far gone. And they do show the rock star versions of these characters, but they don't have the main character sensationalized, that they have the main character say, we got to put a stop to this, they're evil, even though society is seeing them as heroes. And it also, one thing I like, that though you see them, like you'll see like they'll show their legs or their back or their hands or something like that, they don't show Bonnie and Clyde. And even when they do show them, they don't show them very much. You get to see blurred images of them or from far away. So we don't have to really get to know the characters of Bonnie and Clyde except through the lens of our main characters, and then of the people they meet, because they talk to Clyde's father and just people that knew, they grew up with Bonnie and things like that. So they kind of get to know Bonnie and Clyde through the people that they knew. And it shows that Hamer and Galt in this movie have to put aside the opinions of who Bonnie and Clyde were in the past to stop who they are now. So you get to see them, but barely. And I really liked how they did that. Another thing I do like about this movie is there's actors that pop up. I won't say they're cameos, but they're only in a few different scenes, some more so than others. But you have a lot of really good actors playing these characters, but they're in such bit parts that it doesn't take away from the two main characters, but it adds so much having these good actors in small parts. Kathy Bates plays Ma Ferguson. She's in a few different scenes. John Carroll Lynch plays Lee Simmons. He's the guy that hires Hamer to go hunt down Bonnie and Clyde. Kim Dickens is at the first of the movie. She plays Hamer's wife, and she doesn't show back up in any of the movie. William Sadler plays Henry Barrow, Clyde's dad, and so on and so forth. There's a few others that show up, and you're just like, oh, hey, there's so-and-so. And they just having good caliber actors play these small roles always helps a movie. It's just like, I love it when an actor will play a small part like that, just to add so much to a movie. When it comes to the pacing of this movie, a lot of people will think it's too much of a slow burn. I actually really enjoyed it, because though you know how this movie's going to end, you have to get to that point. And from what I can see from like some historical looks at this movie, that the monotony of the road, where Hamer and Galt and their team had to spend, hours and hours and days and nights on the road, and no leads and things like that, is what would have happened. I mean, you got to remember this, the 30s, the technology wasn't there to, track a GPS. They had to think of different ways and find ways to find Bonnie and Clyde. And the monotony of that really shows in this movie. It's not boring, though. It's just showing what they had to do to catch up to Bonnie and Clyde. I know historians dispute what happened at the shootout. I think the way they handled the shootout worked really well for our main characters, where Hamer tells Galt to stay back in the tree line, but the friendship that they've rebuilt throughout the movie, Galt steps out anyway to help Hamer take the lead. So that works. And then also they do portray that Bonnie and Clyde did reach for their guns, and then they were shot up. But from way you can tell, Hamer is told at the beginning of the movie to put him down. And there's actually a story that Manny Galt tells during the movie that says that there's no way that this isn't going to end with them killing Bonnie and Clyde. Would I put this movie with the greats of 30s crime, like A Road to Perdition? Probably not. That being said, I still really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's going to be for everybody. I think you really have to be into this stuff to enjoy this one. See, for me, I get a ton of enjoyment out of 30s crime, so whenever it comes to movies like this, I'm a little more forgiving with pacing. But that being said, the acting in it is fantastic. I liked that they let you see more of the perspective of the police than of the criminals. And though that being said, they did try to give you the perspective of the criminals through family members and former friends and such. So for me, I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, it's on Netflix, so if you have a subscription, I'm not going to say that, you don't have to spend any money to see it other than your monthly subscription. So for me, I would say it's worth giving it a chance, especially if you are fans of this genre of movies. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel, like this video, and if you have anything to say about The Highwaymen, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds. See you later.